Is it a loving choice to leave people out of your community?
This is the deep dive with Adam Roa.
Like, I would answer that with absolutely yes, because sometimes, like, when I say no to people to come into a humans I trust space, I just express to them very clearly and very transparently that I'm just like, I don't think that you're ready for this part of the journey yet. And so it wouldn't serve you, because you would be there being like, man, what am I missing? And so you'd be hard on yourself and beating yourself up of why you're not able to kind of receive things the way that your peers are in that moment. And it has to do because there's still some steps for you to take. So take those steps, and then you're welcome to join when that moment is right for you.
So I think about that, and in that scenario, how you become sort of a gatekeeper. I mean, it is your community, and so you are the gatekeeper to that community. And what you said was, I just don't feel like you're ready for this next tier. Essentially, there's some stuff that I think that you should learn in order to be a match for this. And I really resonate with, wanting to protect the integrity of that tier, whatever it is, and the kind of shared collective frequency of that tier. And I look at the Create community, and anyone who wants to join the Create community is welcome to join. Now, at that stage, once they're a part of it, I've had to send personal messages, for example, for someone who was messaging people and doing kind of like salesy stuff within the community, and messaging and saying, hey, this is not the space for that. And if you continue to do it, you're going to be asked or you're going to be removed from the community. So it's interesting because my filtration system happens after people enter, right? So it's like everyone is welcome. And in order to stay, there's this thing. And so there's a difference there that I just noticed. And I'm curious in the noticing of that difference, what comes up for you? And do you think it's the way where you're kind of the gatekeeper to that tier? Does that feel better, or is it more just based on where it is in terms of the tier itself?
Yeah. So it does feel better for me because I rather have less sort of like damage control in the back end, because in that point where people have been messaged with salesy messages, that's just diluted the quality of my community, and then it has me to having to do like reparation damage. And so I think like a big part is setting the right boundaries around our community to begin with, so that it is a choice when we step into the space. So it's like this space. So we are creating a space of, of trust, of care, of co-creation, of expansion in our skill sets and our businesses, etc. If that is a vibrational match to you, please step into the circle. And so with that, we're also getting more accountability and self-ownership, where they are, self-selecting themselves into the experience. And so they understand what the intentions are that are created in the collective fields. And so that then there should also be, like an onboarding process, like, hey, this is our community. These are the values that we stand for. This is our why. And these are the results that we're trying to get as a collective through being in this space. Like, do you agree to these terms? And then, so one of the important things are kind of, when you're managing a community, because it's constant care, right? It's not just like a one-time thing or a one-time communication, but we need to remind ourselves through rituals and ceremonies and creating culture. And so it's also important to build in pressure release mechanisms into our community, where we actually open the space of like, once a month, like, hey, is there anything that is alive in the community or that like isn't being said? And so like inviting. This is something I've had like a lot of like trauma and negative experiences with in our community, or even just working with other people, where I haven't created a pressure release mechanism where I just check in and just say, hey, is there anything you're not sharing with me? Or is there any way that you can be more supported? And then from there, which I think what you've addressed is just such an important point. Like, when do we ask someone to actually leave our community? Like, when is it time to leave? And like, also like, who are we to decide, of like, or who are the decision makers to decide when someone is supposed to leave. And I think that, the first step is building in these pressure release mechanisms where we check in and see the energetic flow. Then we give, we ask permission to sort of give people feedback and share and have these conversations with them, and have like meetings where we're just like, okay, we've noticed that this has been your behavior in the community. We have maybe other people that are also feedbacking. So it doesn't seem like a sort of like a top down approach where it's like, I'm the boss, I'm the manager, I'm the leader here, and you're wrong. But also getting other people that are like, hey, you know what? Like when you're doing this behavior, it's actually really harmful to the community. And then giving them a few chances to rectify or giving them more support. And then if it's still not working, then, asking them to leave the community. And oftentimes maybe they'll also leave themselves, so just like creating understanding, because what happens often is just someone just gets rejected and ejected. And then there's all these like pent up feelings, and it doesn't get to be able to express. And then it leaves like, a negative experience on both sides.